Hey, this is Gordon for Inspiration Tots. Today we're gonna create this in 3ds Max, and please do me a favor and share this video because this helps a lot. Alright, here we are, and we're gonna start modeling this rocket launcher, which we call the Mortar. This is one round, and and it is important that we realize that this type of modeling is not difficult, but it is something that we can learn something from, because there are some tricky things we will do, especially in the unwrapping. It's gonna be even trickier. So here we are using, of course, the traditional methods of modeling. Just keep holding shift and move forward, up or down, depending on your direction, to generate more edges. We call this method the edge extrusion method. Of course, I'm gonna leave in the description below or in the comment section a link to the reference image I have in front of me here that I am working with, and it's gonna take you to a website that has a lot of reference images and resources for antique weapons. Alright, so the modeling is not going to be something difficult. It's not going to be something out of your league if you are a little bit experienced. It's going to be something not that hard. So we're going to follow the reference image, as you can see here, to generate some good things. But I want to actually take advantage of the opportunity here to talk about something that I believe is going to be really important for you, whether you are an experienced modeler or 3D artist in general, or a newbie, a beginner. This is especially important if you are new, because I cannot tell you about how many people actually attempted to learn 3D and become 3D artists and failed. And I would say that um, it's a high number, but a lot of people don't make it because their psychology is malfunctioning. They psychologically fail, not because the mechanics are taking place. What I mean by that is the fact that people, it's not that they don't have the skills, or they don't have the time, or they don't have the will. It is just their psychology cannot handle some of the difficulties they go through. So I want to talk about actually the approach of a newbie and a professional when facing difficulties in their learning curve. And let's start with what a professional, at least someone who is experienced, who can troubleshoot, who can actually take a hit and get up. So when facing difficulties for someone experienced, it is just an obstacle. It is just another obstacle, because the experienced, let's just say a modeler. So let's talk about modeling, for instance. An experienced modeler is actually someone who has created probably hundreds of pieces, created a lot of things, and he has confidence that he is gonna make it. So it's not gonna be big of a deal for him if for example, for me, when I face some certain weird obstacles, whether it be with the software or whether it be with technical problems in something that I encounter that I have never seen before, I have confidence in myself that I am going to overcome it no matter what, and I have the result that I want to get in mind. So I am going to get it no matter what. This is what someone experienced will think when facing problems. But on the other hand, when someone who has not experienced a certain kind of a good dose of success, let's just say, in art, he didn't actually create things, and he did not actually feel that he is successful, he's going to his psychology is gonna backfire on him. So the reason why is actually lack of confidence. If you haven't done a lot of things with 3D, then you don't have a lot of confidence in your ability to achieve and to create things. Probably this is probably not, we're not generalizing here, because there are some people who are just um, they have actually crazy levels of mental strength, and they will keep pushing regardless of their success or failure. So the point here is it's very easy for a newbie to give up after a few attempts, and this is why persistence is extremely important. It is extremely very important to stay persistent. And to be honest, this is crucially important in the beginning. That's why I want to urge you, please, to keep pushing regardless whether you see good results or not, because it is almost impossible to get as great or as good results as you see me creating in your early stages. You just need to learn that, because I have way more experience than you, and it's actually, to be honest, or you try to actually compare yourself to crazy god level artists that you find in our station. It's just stupid to get demoralized when looking up our station. It doesn't. It's like I don't know. It's like you started uh, learning kung fu yesterday and you compare yourself to Bruce Lee. It doesn't make sense. You need to get inspired, not to get demoralized, whether it be by the other artists or by your own successes and mistakes. And especially comparison, it's probably the number one killer. Don't compare yourself to others in a way that makes you feel that you are less or unable to achieve what they achieved. On the other hand, try to be inspired. Try to um, kind of embrace that greatness inside you, and blind believe that you're gonna make it no matter what. Because if you don't see yourself, and this is very important as well, if you don't see yourself in the future, kind of where you're gonna be, where you are going to end up in a few years from now, it's not gonna give you actually your brain is not gonna give you enough motivation to keep pushing forward, to keep moving. As you can see here, what I'm doing right now is actually I'm creating these holes, and this technique here um, is a little bit tricky, because as to move vertices and keep them on the surface and to not get out of the cylinder, you need to change the constraint on the right, as you see me doing, from none to faces. We want these vertices to move on top of the surface in order to actually to keep them inside, or moving actually according to the surface of the cylinder, and not actually go out and look like they are not in the right place. So what we're gonna do now is gonna be important, because we need actually to select only the few this area that we created these holes for, and we're gonna copy it over. So here I'm going to just try different things to actually copy this around, and you can do a lot of things. You can actually create cut it in half, which is not gonna work in my opinion, as I will show you. Probably it's not gonna work because I think that there's some areas that are gonna be empty. So we'll try to do it the other way around. All right, to be honest, there is something missing here, which is um, we need actually to take just a slice of it, and actually we need to select only the area that we are gonna copy. So the mistake that we were making before is the fact that I was trying to select everything, and so I'm this time I'm gonna keep only the area that I'm gonna use, and I'm going to rotate it over. I'm gonna rotate it, create a copy, um, three copies actually, and here we go. So now what we're gonna do is actually we're going to attach all these pieces together, and we will end up with something that is gonna be like this. So now we will try to weld the vertices after we remove these polygons here, because they're gonna be empty anyways. So we're gonna remove them. As we can see, we selected them all, and we're gonna remove them. So as I was telling you guys before, you in order to actually keep have the ability to keep moving forward, don't compare yourself to people who spent a lot of time and so many years mastering their craft, and you compare yourself to them and feel demoralized. This is very bad. For example, if you started this year in 2019, or even last year in 2018, making 3D and creating, actually trying to create 3D art in 3ds Max, let's just say, it's gonna be a mistake to compare yourself to me, because I have I've been using 3ds Max for almost a decade. I have seen a lot of problems. I have solved a lot of them, and I have read hundreds of articles. I have I have actually I have seen thousands, not that, probably hundreds of hours of courses. I have trained for thousands of hours. I have created so many projects, and I have actually listened to hundreds of hours of podcasts, and I have so much more experience than you do. And actually working in 3ds Max is actually like it's like a second or third language for me, because it is so kind of it's something native for me right now. I don't even think about it. I don't think about what I'm gonna do to create what I'm gonna create. It's like not thinking about the thing you're going to say, because it is something natural. It's an extension of who you are. Until then, you actually gonna focus on your learning and not the result. So comparison out of the way. It's not gonna be helpful. Compare yourself to yourself. This is actually going to help. If you compare yourself to yourself, it's going to be helpful. I myself don't even compare myself to other artists, because I always try to compare myself to myself, because the work I've done last year is definitely not good as the art I'm doing this year, because I'm always striving to become better. And the fact that I have spent a lot of hours uh, kind of learning and exercising and training helped me actually to kind of instill in me the belief that I can create anything I set my mind to, and I can create anything that I decide I will create. So until then, you're gonna to um, teach yourself to keep pushing, because, or if you love it enough, it's not even that hard. Because for me, to be honest, it wasn't like pushing or doing hard work or that. It was pure inspiration and pure love, and kind of it was like when when I started out using a 3ds max, I was 15 years old. It was like my siblings were playing games, and even my older brother, who was at the time probably 20 or something, he was still playing video games, and he still play video games till this day, because he likes to play video games and he's passionate about them. Me, I like video games, but I am passionate about creating what is part of video games. This is what I am passionate about. That's why it was so fascinating for me. I remember the first few times I created some stupid stuff, but it was so inspirational for me. It was so great. I loved it so much. And I remember doing some crazy stuff that actually was that it was actually part of the process, but it was actually exciting. And from that, I built my way up. I watched a lot of courses and videos and articles and stuff, and after that, I confidence that I can create stuff. I can do a lot of good things, and I am capable of creating some crazy stuff if I want to. And of course, I would say that the ability to having the ability to solve problems is very important. It's extremely important, having the ability to solve problems. If you can find solutions on your own, it's gonna help you a lot in the future. There are some crazy artists out there. They are savages actually, because they sometimes face problems. They are on the edge. They are on the edge. They are literally facing some new problems that Autodesk don't know how to solve. They are that's why Autodesk 3ds Max has Max script in it. You can create new tools. You can develop 3ds Max on your end. You can actually create a new stuff that help you to alter the process of modeling or whatever you're doing, or rigging or animation, or or a lot of these things can be actually altered. So they reached a high level when it comes to the ability of being a problem solver. And this is very important if you want to be a successful artist, because you are gonna face a lot of problems down the road. All right, so to be honest, the modeling of this piece here, of this mortar round, it's going to it's easy. It's not there isn't something that is so difficult about it, but I like the way, and I like the how clean it is and how pleasant to work on it. It's not complicated. and it's not simple at the same time. It's just beautiful. And the in the unwrapping process, also we are going to learn some actually exciting things. Here we are going to push this one here to the inside. So dealing with the axis here is a little bit difficult, so I'm trying so hard to find something that I believe is gonna be suitable for um, to be able to rotate properly and easily, because it's a little bit difficult here. All right, now we're going to unwrap the model we have here. To be honest, I actually lost the files that in which I explained how to actually add some floating geometry and how to add some supporting edges. So I hope this is not going to be a big of a deal for you, because we've done that before. Uh, I hope you will manage to make it yourself, because it's those steps are important to get the results we want to get. All right, so now in order to unwrap this one here, we need to um, apply the pelt mapping. And as you can see here, we're gonna try to kind of unfold this unfold this kind of the overall body of this round, and fold it on a flat 2D surface. So we're actually deselecting actually that seam. We're removing the seam, to be honest, to actually to is the best expression to say that, because it's not selection, it is something that exists there. It's a seam. So um, we'll do what we've done before. We have to redo it again quickly. All right, the pelt mapping is extremely important when we have something that looks like this, something cylindrical, or something that is going to be difficult to actually unwrap it piece by piece. So now we are selecting all these lines and we're making them straight for now. Not all of them, because or maybe we're gonna leave them as they are. It's gonna work. It's probably gonna work if we don't straighten them at all. But on the side, it's impossible to do this because it's not gonna work. It's obvious that on the sides it has to stay as it is. So here we are trying to flatten the or throw these surfaces on a 2D surface. I personally sometimes face problems with UV unwrapping because every model I work on sometimes brings with it some new things that I haven't seen, and or at least I haven't experienced that particular case in particular, and that's why and that's when the ability to solve problems and to be problem solver is important. I sometimes, believe it or not, I sometimes when I face a certain problem, I go to search the whole day for 5 or 6 hours just searching and this only in that day. If I don't solve it in that day, I will still search for the solution for maybe sometimes I search for things for weeks. Sometimes I don't find this and the answer. The point is, don't give up. And to be honest, the it's that this ability to be persistent when trying to solve problems is is a piece of gold because it the actually when you try to work on that problem and you struggle with it and you actually search for solutions for it, when you finally find solution for it, it's gonna be something that is gonna be on your mind forever. You're not gonna forget how to solve that problem again. But if you find the solution for it quickly, chances are you're gonna forget about it quickly. And the second, or if you face the same problem the next week, you're probably not gonna be able to solve it because you didn't struggle. Actually, when we struggle emotionally with problems, it's very hard to actually forget and face the same problem again. That's why hard learned lessons are important sometimes. All right, now we are trying to actually uh, push these pieces out of the box, and later we are actually going to assemble them and put them in one. We're gonna make them one, meaning that we're gonna assemble them, we're gonna attach them, and we're gonna pack them inside that rectangle you can see here. This one here is a little bit tricky because I believe it's not that difficult to deal with, but thing is, it's tricky for because when I converted the high poly to a low poly version, there is a lot of lost actually polys that I removed, and sometimes this can cause problems. Sometimes it can cause problems in Substance Painter when I try to texture the model. Sometimes I see weird things going on. It's uh, it's it's not that hard to actually unwrap it, but sometimes I see some weird stuff going on. So now I'm trying to actually separate the areas where I'm going to actually pick these pieces and unwrap them individually, because unwrapping this piece as a whole straight, push it, we're not gonna be able to push it actually um, unwrapped straight ahead, because it has a lot of different kind of surfaces, and they're not going to be unwrapped the same way. That's why we're going to actually separate them. So we will select the areas that we're going to cut off, and we're going to cut the seams, create these seams. And even though, as you can see here, it's not according to my knowledge, I checked that in the edible poly mode, these vertices right there that you can see, um, when I actually create loop, this should not happen. We should not see. We should probably expect something that is going to be clean like this. And these lines actually, those lines that are created and selected, I made sure that everything is actually welded together perfectly. But even though I did that, the results are kind of, sometimes you see something unexpected, and sometimes I spend extra time figuring out what is the reason for that, and sometimes I don't figure it out, and I try to use radical solutions. Sometimes I kind of remove the whole thing and start from zero, and actually start from the high poly, break it down to something low poly, and start unwrapping it. I will start unwrapping it from scratch, but I will have a different approach this time, because the first attempt didn't work. Sometimes sometimes the goal from the low poly is actually to reduce, or most of the time actually, the goal from creating a low poly version rather than dealing with the high poly version we worked on in the first place, is the fact that we need to reduce the number of polygons in order for a video game to video game performance to be optimal, and for the player to have a good experience, not having some problems with how the video game is gonna function. And especially nowadays, there, even though we have good operating machines that can actually run video games seamlessly and perfectly, but we need to reduce that. We need to reduce that amount of polygons that we don't really need. And there is a kind of a fine line between removing the polygons that you don't need and creating problems for yourself by removing too much. Sometimes I run to this problem, and it's not pleasant, because bringing back these polygons that you removed in the first place is gonna be difficult. Sometimes I have to go back and recreate it from scratch, or just go back to the high poly and create the low poly once again, and then wrap it. And we don't have to do this all over again for all the pieces of the model we are working on. We just need to fix only the areas that we think are going to be problematic. And it is actually, it is a stupid idea to keep moving forward when you know that there are some errors and there are some problems with the model you're working on. Because if you can't fool yourself, you cannot fool other people. It's gonna be obvious that your model has some problems to it, and you better, of course, create something that is beautiful and pleasant when we look at it. You can't hide stuff. To be honest, this piece here caused me actually more problem than I was anticipating, because it's um, it's kind of tenacious. Yeah, it's sometimes sometimes I actually suspect that 3ds Max 2016 version that I have is causing these problems. But at the end of the day, I'm able to fix the problems and end up with something that is actually good. But regardless of that, it's still a problem, because the first few times I used the 3ds Max version 2016, it was I have faced some problems that make you actually pull your hair and actually run to the street and scream. It's so frustrating. That's why I actually avoided this version for a certain period of time. But here we are once again, and I'm actually going to upgrade to the 2019 version, because it seems to have some new good features to it. Okay, that was a lot of um, unwrapping right there, and um, if this is um, I want to say that if this is actually your first few attempts in wrapping 3D models, it's gonna be probably gonna be weird, because the principle and the concept of unwrapping is straightforward, and it's clear, but sometimes it is weird, and you're gonna run to some difficult things that you need to learn to overcome, and most of the time you're gonna learn avoiding how not to actually learn to avoid how to actually fall into these problems in the first place. Don't don't avoid these problems, and don't fall into them. And with experience, of course, your ability to unwrap is gonna be a lot better, and you're gonna be able to unwrap complex models with ease. The thing is, just don't give up when you face some terrible problem that makes you feel frustrated, because just keep in mind that over the years and over the months, you're going to be able to achieve some things that you consider today impossible, especially if you have the time. If you, for example, if you are a student, or if you have a job that is actually pathetic and you don't like it, imagine that you put 10 hours every week working on your on your passion. For example, if you are a passionate about art and 3D, I bet that over a few years you're gonna be able to actually replace your job or uh, create solid income on the side that is gonna help you pay for rent or go on vacations or something like that. Because the internet is actually um, something that is kind of creating a revolution in the way that we deal with we deal with ourselves actually, and how we deal with others, and how to actually work. I believe that in the next few decades, most of the people in the world are gonna, not most of them, but a great percentage of people in this world are gonna be able to generate some income online, because it's such a crazy time, and how things are happening, and how new technology is being created, and how things are changing is just incredible. I think people from 2030 or something are gonna look at the time we are in right now as a golden time. Let alone those people who will be alive in, for example, the young generations of 2040, 2050 are gonna look at this time as a golden time, as they're gonna look at us and tell us that you were living actually in a time where gold was actually all over the place and you couldn't see it. I believe in this. I believe that the time we're living in is extremely important, because the internet is changing the rules of the game. So if you have it when we compare ourselves as artists to artists of the, let's just say, the 20th century, the 18th, the 19th century, it was so difficult to succeed as an artist. Today, you need just to put a few hours a week over the years, and using social media, Facebook or YouTube, or I don't know, Instagram, you're gonna be able to get recognized. And even if you don't actually work for a studio or something, you are going to be able to build a following that is gonna help you get inspired and probably get some income on the side. In the past, it was so freaking difficult because there was no internet, and the ways to market your work were so actually so difficult um, to be successful in. Today it's much more easier, I would say. So if you give up after facing some few difficulties, I believe it's gonna be something that you will regret in the future. And I personally, I regret that I didn't go actually. Um, um, I didn't actually invest as much as I would like to invest in the past, because I over the years I didn't actually I was not as serious as I wanted to be today, because of a lot of reasons. But what you do online is gonna pay dividends in the future. So if you have few hours to dedicate on the side every week, then I believe it's gonna be something that you will be glad you did in the future. Of course, in the beginning of creating art, you're gonna do it because you like it and because you want people to see what you are creating. I remember when I was little kid, I used to draw like crazy, and I when I was actually watching television, I would go to television and stop an image, for example, from a cartoon. I was actually obsessed with the Japanese anime cartoons. It's they call it anime, not cartoons, but the style drawing they have is just it's amazing, and I would stop the video or the image for few hours and try to mimic and actually capture all the details that that personality has. And I was very good at it. When I go to class and show my my friends what I've done, it was just out of the the short actually words that will describe this is it blew their minds every time, because they will tell me they were telling me it's every time that it's impossible that you have done that. And I remember I was 11 years old or something, because I was drawing all the time. It's like it was like something that surpassed my age, and it seemed like I was not the person who was doing that. So they most of the time accused me of not being able to actually do this, and I was a fake. And one of my friends was kind of the marketing guy for me. He was selling my drawings, for God's sake, for such a very low price, for a few for less than maybe 50 cents or something a piece. He was my marketing guy back then. And we will share the revenue 50-50. And I was happy with it, and then he was happy with it. Then we quit after a period of time, because I was studying all the time as well. Then I discovered 3D when I was 15 years old, and that changed the rules of the game for me. So here we are after we completed the unwrapping of all the pieces, and now we're gonna bring them back together in one complete piece. So as you can see here, these pieces are scattered all over the place, and what we need to do now is actually to put them inside that rectangle, one by one rectangle. And the I have created a video in which I explain all the details of that, about the process of unwrapping in the past month or something. And in this video, or in this part of the video, I'm going to show you as well um, how to pack all the pieces inside this rectangle. I don't know why this piece keeps breaking apart. Actually, I forgot that there are actually different pieces that look similar. So we will check everything if everything um, is not being duplicated on top of each other, because it's important that every piece is gonna have its own space. Uh, The reason is at the end, when we erase the process of texturing, we don't want these pieces to look similar and have the same exact texture because it's not gonna look real. All right, we will now try to push these small pieces in the areas that we believe they are gonna fit inside, even though there is more than enough space right there. Oh shoot, I forgot about these as well. So we need to actually bring them apart. All right, keep doing this until we end up with the last one. So we will figure out a way in order to make them consume less space. All right, so we will actually push these pieces somewhere in there as well. All right, so we are very close to the end. I think we will just work on some final touches before we end up with the a proper packing that that we will be happy with, I guess. All right, okay. There are some few pieces that we forgot to actually separate. So this is gonna kind of this is gonna need more space. So we're gonna um, create more space for it. Actually, now we need to reduce the size of all the pieces together, and because we want to push these somewhere. I don't believe this is gonna be enough, so um, we will find another creative way to fit it inside. All right, so we'll put them everyone on top of the other. All right, so it seems like this rectangle here, or this UV space, is a little bit more crowded than I expected, and we will figure out a way to make it a little bit appropriate here, because there are a lot of things that we need to cram there inside. And on the right, things don't seem to be that great. And now I'm trying to actually to relieve that area on the side and make it less crowded. Alright, now we are inside Simpsons Painter, and it is time to bake some textures and bake some maps and create some textures. So the first thing we're gonna do is actually to go to File and New. And here, when we open this, we're gonna see this dialog that we see all the time, and we're gonna keep everything as it is, and we're gonna load our low poly model that we exported from 3ds Max. So we're gonna hit select and import our low poly. All right, after we load the mortar round low poly, as you can see here, the naming convention, I'm trying to keep everything as it's supposed to be in order to, especially for the names of the pieces that we're gonna bake in few minutes, it's gonna be incredibly important to actually to get proper naming because it's not gonna work otherwise. I'm gonna keep everything as it is. If you are going for a 4K texture, you're gonna choose 4K. In my case, it's gonna be a 2K texture, and we're gonna hit OK. So here is the model that we export from 3ds Max. I hope you know how to export models and stuff because we do this all the time. And what we're gonna do now is actually to start baking some textures. So we're gonna go to the bake dialog here. We're gonna deselect everything and we're gonna choose the normal map and the ambient occlusion. And we're gonna go to the common section here. And in the common section, we're gonna actually load the high poly model from the high poly parameters. Okay, after we load the high poly, as you can see here, there are very few things that we want to do. The first thing is actually selecting how the low poly and the high poly are gonna match, and the answer is by mesh name, because this is very important. Later, when we make sure that the test is gonna work, we're gonna activate anti-aliasing and push it to super sampling 4x4, which is an overkill because actually 8x8 is an overkill. 4x4 is actually gonna give us excellent results if we are doing things properly. And the suffix for the high poly is gonna be HP. In my case, you're gonna name it whatever you want, just make sure it is identical. And LP for the low poly. Oh shit, abort. Actually, I made a mistake. I always forget to hit I always forget and I hit enter, which is actually going to initiate the baking automatically. So what we're gonna do next is ambient occlusion. We don't have actually to change it to by mesh name, but it's gonna be okay. So let's start baking, and I'm gonna see the results in a few minutes. All right, after the baking is done in 1 minute or two, we're to see the baking process taking place. We need to change this to combine, and as you can see here, this is just an initial bake, and it is not the final bake that we're gonna work on. So as a start, this is good enough, and we're gonna do the same thing for the rest of the maps. So we're gonna select word map, ID, curvature, position, and thickness. And in the ID map, there is a very important thing, which is to select this from hue shift to random. And the others you can keep them as they are, or you can increase some of the functional or some of the important parameters that are going to change the quality of the bake. For now, we're going to bake them quickly. All right, and now I have baked the next set of textures or maps, and it is not that noticeable what they are going to do now, but later we're going to see. So in order to start texturing this model here, we're gonna of course use smart materials to save time and to get better results in that short period of time. So we're gonna scroll down, and we're gonna try this machinery, smart material. And we'll wait for it for a second till it loads. So here it is, the machinery texture. and it's already doing a good job, even though this is not what we are really after. But for now, let's delete this one here, and we'll try to manipulate some of the parameters. This rest here, we don't really need this rest because it is not part of our plan. Sorry, we're gonna delete it. And what we want to do now is actually to change the color. So we're gonna go to the base color. Even though the base color is something very close to what we see here, it is completely different on the viewport. And this is something I've noticed since I started working with the Substance Painter tools. So we're gonna try changing the color a little bit. It's between it's probably something like this, something that is gonna be orange. Okay, and we'll keep the dust and some of the effects that we probably need later. So this is the first start, and the head of this model is gonna be textures using a different material, which is gonna be the silver armor. So let's look for it. Here it is. Push it up there. The silver armor. I think this is gonna fit very well with the head, which is this piece here that you can see on top. All right, as you can see here, this smart material is applying all over the place. So we will try to exclude the parts that we don't need and only choose the ones that we need. So we're gonna use the polygon fill option here, and we're gonna select we're gonna use polygons here, and we're gonna select only the parts that we actually need to work with, which is this part over here. All right, now for starters, this is what we are seeing here. And to add more effects to this thing here, we're going to actually add another material, which is gonna be steel. Probably let's look at this steel material. Probably we're gonna use a normal material. All right, here it is, steel rough. So this one here is gonna be actually inside the machinery smart material. We're gonna push it inside, and what this is gonna be is gonna be this is gonna be a tool that we're gonna use in order to generate some edge damage. So we're gonna add a generator, or probably we're gonna add some masks. So let's look up some masks. Smart materials, smart masks. Let's look for an edge damage mask. Probably this is gonna work. All right, here we are, and it doesn't seem that it does not really seem that this is something that we are looking for, because it's not only damaging the edges that we probably gonna affect, but it's all over the place. So we're gonna find something else. So let's look up something else. Let's try this one. All right, this one is a little bit too strong. Probably Let's try this one here, ash damage. Alright, this one is completely useless because it is all over the place. Alright, now after trying some of these, I decided I'm gonna go with the gun edges. So here we are. This is the result from the gun edges, and we will probably actually lower the level of the texture here. I'm gonna lower the brightness a little bit. Okay, it seems okay for now. So the next step, probably we're gonna add some rust, if this is a possibility. So we're gonna go to materials. We're gonna add some fine rust here. Okay. We're gonna put it on top. I'm gonna put it inside the machinery, actually. Inside the machinery texture. And we're gonna put it on top. Or just underneath the edge damage. Okay. There is actually a hierarchy that we need to respect in order to see some good results. So we're gonna add now. We're gonna add a black mask, and now we're gonna add a generator. And this generator is gonna be simply we're gonna use dirt instead of using rust, which is supposed to be the thing that we're gonna use for, but sometimes things are counterintuitive. Okay, let's see what this gave us actually. It's not too good and it's not too bad. So let's reduce the levels of dust or rust a little bit. Too bad. Maybe more. Okay. As you can see here, these are considerable amounts of rust over there. But I wonder why the amount on the inside is much better than the outside. We're gonna worry about that later. And for now, I believe this is good as a start. And what I'm gonna show you next is actually how I'm gonna add these actually the text on top of the model. Alright, here we are inside Photoshop, and what we need to do is actually, I'm gonna explain to you the steps, the overall steps I took. And let's start from the start. So you need actually, I needed this in order to remove all the clutter, and this is actually the color mask, and this is the UV template. So other than that, this is actually you're gonna end up with the base color map, which is this one here that I exported from Substance Painter. So this is the result of what I have done personally. And there is another thing, which is this actually this effect here actually came along after applying a mask. I applied a white and black, actually white and black texture or image on top of our text to generate this effect. Okay, this is the black and white image I used. So the trick is just to drop it over here, and you're gonna change this to something that is gonna allow you to achieve this. And what I've done personally is quite tricky because it seems like there is some problem with Photoshop or something. So here, when I try to select this, I actually deleted all the black areas and applied it on top of the my text here, and I put it just on top of it, and then I created a selection, for example a selection like this one. Then I deleted my text, and that I ended up with something like what you can see here. And it is not that great, but it is something that can convey the message. So I hope this was useful. I hope you learned something, and of course, after you generate the textures, I've done several in my several of my videos. I show you how to actually put the textures inside Marmoset Toolbag 3. And yeah, I hope you learned something. Please like this video if you did, and subscribe to our channel if you haven't done that yet. And actually, to be honest, to be straightforward with you, I'm not showing you everything because it is such a long time, and it actually takes me about 10 hours or more to create this video that you can see here from start to finish. That's why it's even more difficult to deliver everything and show you everything. It is just too difficult. This needs a course. This, if you want to get everything, I need to create a course for you and upload it on Gumroad or something to get the full picture if you are not experienced with all the things I'm talking about here. So anyways, if you learned something, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't done that, and maybe share this video or some other videos if you feel like it. And I will see you in the next one. Take care.